Welcome to the Level 1 Derivatives Summary video series. Derivatives has these 6 readings. The weight is 5%. Many people feel that the difficulty level is high, so I will go with what students have said in the past. But if you understand the core concepts, then I don't think it is very difficult. But nevertheless, let's go with a difficulty level of high. The weight is low, difficulty is high, so the weight to difficulty ratio is low, which means that while you obviously study this material, but you don't have to spend too much time on it. As always, focus on the core concepts, try to do as many questions as possible, and that is the best way to learn this material. This video is a summary of the reading on derivative markets and instruments. A derivative is a financial instrument which derives its value from an underlying asset. Now, asset is in parentheses because often the underlying is an asset, but it doesn't have to be. The underlying could also be a rate. Broadly speaking, derivatives can either be exchange traded or over the counter. With exchange traded derivatives, we have a clearinghouse and a settlement process. All contract terms are standardized except for price. These tend to be more liquid than over-the-counter markets, more transparent, and there is a credit guarantee. So when we trade on an exchange, then essentially there is no credit risk. With over-the-counter markets, we have an informal network of market participants. The dealers basically create the market. So this is the dealer market, less liquid, less transparent relative to exchange traded, and these tend to be customized contracts. With derivatives, we can have forward commitments and contingent claims. So let's quickly go over forward commitments. Forward commitments are contracts entered into at one point in time that require both parties to engage in a transaction at a later point in time. That later point is called expiration, on terms agreed upon at the start. So at time 0, two parties agree on a transaction which happens at expiration, often denoted by big T. The parties establish the identity and quantity of the underlying, the manner in which the contract will be executed or settled when it expires, and the fixed price at which the underlying will be exchanged. This fixed price is called the forward price and often denoted by the symbol big F. Now, these are the different kinds of forward commitments. You can have a forward contract or a futures contract or a swap. You can read the definitions here, but there is a reading on each one of these kinds of forward commitments. The key point to note with forward commitments is that at time 0 an agreement is made and both parties have to stick to that agreement. Contingent claims. The holder of a contingent claim has the right but not an obligation to make a final payment contingent on the performance of the underlying. The most important contingent claim for level 1 candidates is an option. You can have call options and put options, and you can read this definition, but we'll discuss options in a lot more detail shortly. These other contingent claims are not discussed in subsequent readings, so I will go through the definitions. This material is covered in detail at level 2. At level 1, you just need to know the definitions given here. A credit derivative is a class of derivative contracts between two parties, a credit protection buyer and a credit protection seller, in which the latter provides protection to the former against a specific credit loss. The most popular credit derivative is a credit default swap, and here is the definition. A credit default swap is a derivative contract between two parties, a credit protection buyer and a credit protection seller, in which the buyer makes a series of cash payments to the seller and receives a promise of compensation for credit losses resulting from the default of a third party. So just learn this. At level 2, there is a full reading on credit default swaps. An asset-backed security is a derivative contract in which a portfolio of debt instruments is assembled and claims are issued on the portfolio in the form of tranches, which have different priorities of claims on the payments made by the debt securities, such that prepayments of credit losses are allocated to the most junior tranches first and the most senior tranches last. Now this again is material that is covered in detail at level 2. I don't think that you will get anything that's particularly difficult on your exam related to asset-backed securities or credit derivatives. So just go through these definitions a few times and that should be sufficient. The purposes and benefits of derivatives. Let's talk about the purposes and benefits first, then we look at criticisms and misuses. Risk allocation, risk transfer and management. So the key function of derivatives is to help companies or institutions, financial institutions, asset managers manage risk. So you will see later that you can use derivatives to transfer risk from one party to another and to manage risk. If you are engaging in a transaction with high risk, you can use derivatives to reduce the risk. Information discovery, derivatives help you with price discovery. So you will see later with futures contracts, they allow you to determine the price of the underlying, and also implied volatility. The volatility is one of the factors that determines the price of a derivative. So if you know the price, then you can figure out the implied volatility of an underlying asset. Derivatives provide operational advantages. Simplistically, what this means is, if you want to get exposure to a particular stock or a particular index, one way of getting exposure to an index is to buy all the stocks in that index. But it is often much more cost effective to deal with a derivative based on that index. That is more cost effective, transaction costs lower, and that is being called an operational advantage. Derivatives help ensure market efficiency in the sense that if a market is not efficient, then traders can take advantage of that inefficiency through derivatives. And if traders are then taking advantage of the inefficiency through derivatives, then the market inefficiency will be removed. Enough people dealing with derivatives will cause the market to become efficient again. The major criticism of derivatives is that it is like speculation and gambling, and that it destabilizes the financial system, it creates too much risk. While these criticisms have some merit, but the case made in the curriculum is that derivatives are complicated and they need to be handled with care. So they are very powerful, so they have to be used carefully and in the correct way. If they are used carefully, then these criticisms do not hold. Elementary principles of derivative pricing. So the basic idea with derivatives is that we price using the concept of hedging. If we use a derivative to create a hedged portfolio where we don't have any risk, and essentially this hedged portfolio is a combination of a derivative and an underlying such that risk is eliminated. In a hedged portfolio where the risk is eliminated, what should the return be? It should be the risk-free rate. Hedged portfolio should earn the risk-free rate. A derivative's value is the price of the derivative that forces the hedge portfolio to earn the risk-free rate. Now just some terms that you need to know, and you will see these in later readings. Arbitrage is the condition that two equivalent assets or derivatives or combinations of assets and derivatives sell for different prices, leading to an opportunity to buy at the low price and sell at the high price, thereby earning a risk-free profit without committing any capital. The combined actions of arbitrageurs bring about a convergence of prices. Hence, arbitrage leads to the law of one price, which states that transactions that produce equivalent results must sell for equivalent prices. Now, simplistically, what we are saying is that because of the ability of traders to make arbitrage profits, the markets will be in equilibrium, because if there's any arbitrage opportunity, lots of traders will jump in and then the prices will return to what they should be. So we can actually do pricing with the assumption that there is no arbitrage opportunity. That is the simplistic point, and this point is covered in detail at level 2. When pricing derivatives, we also need to consider storage costs and benefits associated with storing the underlying assets. Now this again, you are probably tired of hearing this, but all this material gets covered in level 2. Level 1, you are just learning the basic concepts. If you found this lecture helpful, then I'll be very grateful if you can do 3 things for me. Number 1, like this video. Number 2, like my Facebook page. And number 3, visit analystforum.com and there add my logo to your studying with profile. You can see this slide for help on how to do that. Thank you very much and good luck with your studies.